Well, it's another Monday evening, ladies and gentlemen, which means Bannerman Banter is back. This time we are back live. A variety of topics to talk about this evening. Ahsoka season 2. We're going to be joined by a special guest to discuss that. Andor is winning Emmys, and the Emmys haven't even happened yet. Taking Shape 2, for all you Halloween fans out there, really reveals the secrets of the franchise and why that might be a recipe for other franchises to follow up with similar books. And then Gauntlet of Thrones comes back with matchup number 3, followed by our Flix Busters review of James Gunn's Superman. Welcome to Bannerman Banter.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the third episode of Bannerman Banter. We are live for this third episode, and it's going to be a very lively discussion. I'm Zach. I'm joined here by Shawn, and dude, we have got a pretty jam-packed episode that covers a lot of different franchises. You see right off the top, we're talking Star Wars. We've got some Ahsoka stuff. We've got some Andor stuff, but you've got some Halloween stuff for us to talk about. Flix Busters is back. We're going to be talking about a certain movie that came out this summer, whether it's a flick or a bust. And obviously, being Bannerman, we've got to include some Game of Thrones content in there. So it's shaping up to be a really fun episode.
Yeah, man, thoroughly looking forward to it. I mean, the big secrets out of the bag. We do 2 of these things every Monday, and one releases the following week. And I'm dreading the next one we need to record, and the Gauntlet of Thrones for that one. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, when you watch episode 4, oof, we apologize. Blame AI. I warned Zach.
Sure, it's my fault. It's always my fault. Blame Zach. He's the bad guy. Whatever. Let's kick it off with a Star Wars centric discussion here at the top of the show, because the Emmys are out, and Andor has already won a few awards before the main ceremony has even begun, which is really, really cool. And then there's some discussions going on about how Ahsoka season 2 is shaping up, and we've got a special guest that's going to be joining us for that discussion as we look at the things that are likely to happen and the things that we hope are going to happen. So the galaxy far, far away is definitely one of the centerpieces tonight, and we're bringing on a guest tonight, the very first guest on Bannerman Banter. It only took 3 episodes, and he is the co-host on the Mask of Fear Live, also on this channel. It's Randy. Man, thanks so much for taking time out of your night to be a part of this. I know you've got a busy streaming slate on other days of the week, so I'm glad you were able to sneak away and do some stuff on a Monday as well.
No, I appreciate the invite. I mean, it's only Monday Night Football I was watching anyway, so it's only the Bears and the Vikings, so it's not really that big of a deal.
It's not. I mean, there were some pretty good games yesterday. That Sunday night game might have been the game of the week, and then
could be the game of the year depending on how the season goes.
That's true. It's very true. And then the Steelers and Jets drama lived up to the hype, surprisingly. So it was a pretty decent day in the football world. But now we get to tackle things in the galaxy far, far away. I guess the first question that I'm going to go to both of y'all with, just so we can get a little bit of backstory and lay the foundation for how we all feel about this series, was, what did you think of season 1, Randy, and some of the stories that it told and the foundation that it set to lead up justifying a season 2?
I was really into it. I enjoyed it more than I probably thought I would at the time, just because you never know how certain animated characters are going to translate to the big screen, especially since we'd only seen cameos from Ahsoka, and the story they brought and introducing more Rebels characters from the animated series. They were really well done, and it got me really excited just for the potential for season 2, because season 2 wasn't a given.
Right.
With Filoni wanting to do a movie, but I feel like with the story, with the characters they built, uh, Balin Skull himself being just such an amazing character in the series. I was definitely jonesing for more, and with this rewatch we're doing on The Mask of Fear, it's been a lot of fun, and it's living up to my impressions of it the first go around.
Yeah, I need to do a rewatch, so maybe I'll just hop in the chat and watch along with you guys at some point to kind of help refresh my memory, because I don't think I've seen it since the finale. I do remember having good things to say about those final 2 or 3 episodes, but I scroll through TikTok sometimes, and a little clip will show up, and I'll be like, "Oh, damn, that was in that show," and so I do need my memory refreshed a little bit. So I'm glad that you all are doing this, because it's something that I think the community needs, and it's something that I need. So it's good that it's being done. Shawn, what about you? What were your impressions of season one, and have they changed at all with this rewatch?
Been really enjoying the rewatch. We're 4 episodes into it now, so we just ended the episode where Balin knocks Ahsoka off the cliff, and she wakes up in the world between worlds, and Anakin's there. So, and just a brief point on that one. So wonderfully done by Dave Filoni and Kevin Kiner, how you get the moment of hope in Ahsoka's eyes, and it's wonderful, like upbeat melody. And as they're about to roll the credits, you get the dun 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 dun, the Vader theme, or the Imperial March theme, if you will. And it's just it's really good. The one thing I think Ahsoka season one suffers from is budget constraints, and a very poor costume department, which I know they've rectified going into season two. Um, but we're going to be talking about Game of Thrones later tonight, and that show really upped the standard for what you expect out of the visual appearance of TV shows, and what's believable and what's not, whether it's the costumes or the cinematography. And you can tell when this show is on location, and you can tell when this show is using stagecraft. And the
Mhm.
stagecraft stuff is not very good at all. And the on location stuff is good, and it excites me for season two, because I think Lucasfilm in general has learned their lesson, and they know they need to be very selective using stagecraft from now on. And season two has been heavily shot on location over in London.
Well, and consider as well just how night and day and/or season two was. All of the different locations, all of the sets, and the production value that went into Gilroy's brainchild. And you see what kind of a reaction it's gotten, and you see what kind of awards it's winning. We were talking off the top that it's winning Emmys. I'm not necessarily expecting Ahsoka season 2 to win any Emmy awards, but I do think that the positive reception of certain parts of these Disney Plus originals like Andor is definitely sending the right message to Disney and Lucasfilm, saying, "Hey, the fans like this over here. Let's give them a little more of that. It might be worth it in the long run." So it'll be interesting to see what kind of sets they're able to create, what kind of you know visuals we get that can hopefully up the production value of season two. Um, Randy, aside from the title character during this rewatch, what character from this series has stood out to you? Any memorable moments, any memorable quotes that has kind of jogged your memory and made you realize that, oh, maybe I like this character?
Well, even the first watching of it, like I said, Balin Skull has been one of those characters where his presence, demeanor, the way he says things, and just how he just can give a look, and you're centered on him. Doesn't
Hmm.
matter. So that's held up extremely well to me. I forgot just how funny Hu Yang is during the series, and just how blunt, because he's a droid being so blunt with what he's saying. It's
Hmm.
all just comes off as extremely comedic and a lot of fun. Uh, but beyond that, it's been, like I said, it's been very similar in terms of how I felt first watch through, my scores have like where we have been scoring a little bit. It's been a little bit different because now like I'm not watching it with the rose-colored glasses of like that pure excitement of the first time seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been eye-opening that some stuff I'm rating a little lower because I'm taking more time to just kind of pay attention to every little thing. And I think all around it's been a smidge lower. I think a couple episodes have been around the same as before. Uh, but being halfway through, like Shawn said, that whole ending for episode 4, with Ahsoka waking up in the world between worlds and seeing Anakin again, and just that overall feeling of just that nostalgia feeling that you get, so well done. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next 4 episodes we're gonna do, and I'm this time I'm gonna pay a little bit more attention to some of the stuff that I may have glossed over last time, just because uh, we did pick up on some things in the first 4 episodes that we missed first watch through.
Shawn, can you give any examples of one of the big things that you may have missed on the first watch through that you've noticed and has helped add a little value to your experience during this rewatch?
I mean, not for the, lack of entertainment here. I don't know if there's been anything that I missed, but in terms of added importance and almost a little bit of fear heading into season 2 is like I really was taken back by Ray Stevenson's performance the first time around watching this as Balin Skull. And I thought that I would think it, I didn't think it would hit with me or resonate with me as well the second time around. And it's actually, done that more so. And
Hmm.
and I'm a big Rory McCann fan. I mean, we're Game of Thrones, nerds here, and I think he's gonna, do well. But man, in a series that's titled Ahsoka that has Thrawn pop up in it, has Anakin have fairly significant screen time, has Ahsoka herself. No one is more prominent in terms of presence and honestly on just their ability to take over the whole show than Balin. He's been incredible, and Rory has a big task ahead of him.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things that I wanted to touch on when we started looking at this season 2 outlook as part of our discussion tonight. That's kind of the elephant in the room is the missing of Ray Stevenson. Um, Randy, just to follow up on what Shawn was mentioning with Roy McCann, we'll go ahead and dive into that delicate subject for a moment here. Um, how do you feel like that's going to impact season 2? I mean, we've seen what he can do in the Game of Thrones franchise, and there have been quotes from members of the cast that say that they've enjoyed working with McCann during this season 2 production. But is that going to be enough?
Honestly, I really don't know. Just because even though they were, friends in life, and he's actually talking about how he wants to do everything he can to put his best foot forward to honor Ray Stevenson, the way he portrayed the character. That's a really tall task when you look at the fact that it felt like when Balin Skull was written, it was almost like it was written for him. Like it was
Mhm.
just he had like all his strengths in mind when the character, the dialogue, the just the overall feel of the character. It's that's hard to really replicate in with
Mhm.
someone else taking over. We've all talked about that in the Star Wars universe in general, like recasting the Holy Trinity essentially, just because there's so many stories we can tell if we do that. Yet, obviously, we're kind of feeling like a lot of fans feel right now is with a recast, can they find someone who's going to embody the character and really make us feel the same things we felt before uh, with the original actor? And that's always going to be, something difficult. It's like looking at Harry Potter when uh, they recast Dumbledore of because of his passing, and it's just It's yeah, it with Richard Harris was great as Dumbledore, but Michael Gambon did a great job as well. So it's one of those where, can we get that chemistry? Can we get that the on-screen chemistry? Because that's another thing. As much as Ray Stevenson had a commanding presence, he also worked well with the characters around him, and it added layers to just what was happening in the scene. So we're just have to wait and see. It's a shame that we can't just say yes or no, but maybe that'll just add more to the watch. When we finally get to see this and be able to be like, hey, he's doing a great job. It's either going to be yes, it's the same, or no, it's different. But maybe it's going to be different in a good way. We'll just have to wait and see.
I'm going to read a quote from an interview that was done with Ivana Sangmo by Screen Rant, and then we'll move on. And it's you were talking about on-screen chemistry. That's the one person that he's going to need to have the most chemistry with in order for this to really work. And she says, talking about McCann, he is so depthful and has such immense respect for Balin and also what Ray has created, which allows him to really bring his own into Balin's shoes. So watching him doing it has been a gift. And of course, we all feel Ray's presence as well and guidance. I feel immense gratitude, and Rory is a dream to be around. So that is rather encouraging, just to hear that they are already kind of building that chemistry off screen. Rory has an understanding of what he's in for, and hopefully that leads to something positive in this second season. Shawn, one of the other big elements that is very obviously headed this direction, this is not the speculative portion, we're going to get to that in a moment, but one of the obvious directions that we are heading with this second season involves a very particular 3-episode arc that took place in season 3 of the Clone Wars. It was kind of a turning point for the series with new character designs, new costumes, a little bit of a different animation style than what we had seen prior. And it really kind of helped set the tone for what the Clone Wars was going to shape itself up to be. And it also got used in the expanded universe before things kind of got shifted. You have the character of Abeloth that is a big part of the final book series before everything got rebooted. What do you think about them finishing this season with the idea of the Mortis gods being a part of the story, and possibly, that this is the speculative part, possibly including a character from Legends like Abeloth?
I mean, make no mistake, we see Balon, for the final time in season 1 on was it the outstretched hand of the father he's on?
Hand of the Father.
And the brother's beside him, and the daughter is headless, I believe. That is what we've seen. But in reality, all 3 of them die in that arc. So then what's calling him? I would say that your queue up here in terms of Abeloth, if you look at, and I mean almost anything they've done on Disney Plus, almost all of it has been picked from one part of Legends or another. And I do think that Abeloth has a role in this, and Abeloth may even be the one that is calling to Balon. Now, I don't know how much time there's going to be to explain who and what Abeloth is in this series, but it's pretty important to remember that this series, along with The Mandalorian and Grogu, is supposed to lead into a big movie, although lately it's been speculated that it might just be a Defenders-like series, which I feel like is the direction this might end up going. I would love it personally, because I think Fate of the Jedi is a roller coaster ride that pays off big in the end, but has some bumpy parts at the beginning. You have to have some patience to get through it. And honestly, I don't think you can read the Fate of the Jedi series without reading Legacy of the Force. Like, one goes right into the other. You're only getting half the story. Hell, I'd even argue you probably need to understand what happens in New Jedi Order to respect both of those 2 series in terms of stuff that's going on with Jason Solo back then, of relating to Abeloth and stuff. I would love it, but the only way I see that working is if they cut out the 35, 36-minute episodes and deliver, almost 8 1-hour episodes. If they're going to give us the time with characters that we had in Andor, then there's an opportunity to do something. But if it's 8 35, 40-minute episodes, I think any representation we get of that is going to be lackluster.
Okay, Randy, follow up additional thoughts to that, and then what do you make of the speculation that certain characters from this show could end up replacing the Mortis gods that we lost in the Clone Wars?
So it would make sense when you really think about it, because in the Clone Wars arc that they did, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka essentially were the embodiment of the three gods. So in a way, that seemed to be where they were heading until things went sideways because of the brother. But beyond that, I think it's really an interesting speculation to say that's always a possibility. Where, I mean, I guess you could, in a way, rewriting the canon to some degree, but we all also know that Anakin's back. We'll see Obi-Wan, hopefully, maybe probably just in Clone Wars flashbacks, but it could be more, because I feel like they have to play some sort of a role in either aiding Ahsoka and stopping Balin in what his ultimate goal is, or what he thinks his ultimate goal is, and potentially not letting loose, an evil across the galaxy that they've never faced before. So that's kind of where I'm at with this, where it's like, there's that part of me that would love to see kind of the whole Mortis thing, come to fruition similarly to what they probably originally were thinking about. But also the idea of bringing Abeloth into canon is wild. And that is quite the threat that not just the Jedi would have to, whatever remaining Jedi, I should say, would need to band together. It would be everybody, all hands on deck sort of thing. Whether it be, and again, there's also the potential for, what we think about with potentially the Grisk, where with Vaughn, so with Thrawn. So it's one of those things where there's so many different ways they can go with this, so many different avenues they can take, that I like the idea of really not knowing where we're going. It's for the first time, I should say, because at least in previous shows, there was always a hint of like understanding what the characters are going to go through. I just like the fact that even though we're bringing stuff from Legends into canon, that we really just don't know where they're thinking, where they're going with it, and I like it. I'm excited for whatever they decide to do, if it's going to be the Grisk or the Yuuzhan Vong or Abeloth or however they want to do it. I'm excited for what they potentially could be bringing to the future.
I'm trying to really temper my excitement personally with, I guess, I don't want to say realism, but just, I guess, the expectations based on what we have gotten so far. My family has a saying that the best way to predict future behavior is to look at past behavior. And I would say that Andor is the exception rather than the rule. You take a look at the Kenobi series, you take a look at Book of Boba Fett, you take a look at the production value on most of The Mandalorian, and then you look at Ahsoka. There are certain limitations to the way that those live action series have been made. And I guess part of me has a hard time feeling like they are willing to tackle stories like Abeloth or the Grisks in the manner in which they deserve to be addressed. I think it is supposed to be something more of a grander scale, personally. I think Abeloth is a very involved character that if they dress her down or dumb her down a little bit, it takes away from the impact of the type of evil that she represents. I think the way in which the Grisks conduct themselves in the books is very brutal, and their similarities to the Vong are absolutely there. And so if Disney's not willing to tackle some of those tougher components of the galaxy far, far away and show you the type of evil that it is and invest the type of money necessary to show you that type of evil in Star Wars, then it takes away from the impact of those types of characters. And so, yes, I want to see Abeloth, but I don't want to see half an Abeloth. That's my issue. I don't want to see her halfway done. I don't want to see the Grisks holding back. I want it all or nothing. And I'm worried that Disney is not going to um, punch with all its force. It'll be tempered. And when it does that, it could affect the quality of what we get.
Yeah, I would follow that up by saying I'm worried about that too. I want to believe that there's a long-term play here for the Imperials and the current Republic to have to team up simply based on some of the dialogue, not just it's all over the place in the Thrawn novels, but that Thrawn used in season one. Like there's another thread out there. They're desperate to get back to that galaxy
Mm-hmm.
for their own survival. Something else is out there. And I do, it's sad it is to say, I do believe the Grisk are the current canon placeholder for the Yuuzhan Vong. I don't think you would see the Yuuzhan Vong. I think you'd see the Grisk, and um, I hope that's still the plan. I just think that Andor season two changed so much of what's going on with this franchise and the direction they want. Like, look at the focus that's on Starfighter compared to Mando and Grogu, and Starfighter's still, a year and three quarters out, and Mando and Grogu is less than a year from now.
Right.
So I just don't know how much is left that they're willing to spend money on specifically to tell stories in this era.
Right. Is this story worth growing and continuing and ballooning it into, another season or another movie or something? Or are they just going to make Thrawn the bad guy so that they can kind of wind things down and be able to focus on other projects? I guess that's the other concern that I have is there's other things out there, and the indicators we've been seeing from, press releases and show announcements and stuff is that they're ready to return Star Wars to the cinema. And so these TV series are not really looking like they're going to be the priority anymore. And if that is the case, then the quality of what we get could end up declining. Anyways, um any more thoughts on season 2? I guess the big question, um I I would ask, what is the one thing that you would like to see out of season 2? This will be the pure speculation. The other stuff is like, we're most likely going to get this. This is the forum for what do we hope to see in this second season of Andor. Randy, I'll toss it to you first.
So for me, I'm kind of hoping we get to see everybody back together. Like because me, I'm a huge Rebels fan. So given that this was, Ahsoka season one was almost like a Rebels season five, so to speak. My biggest thing is I want to see everybody back together and bring Zeb in as well. Like have all of them together finally for the first time since the end of Rebels. Obviously, there's that part of me that hopes I get to see a Kanan Force Ghost at some point, but I know that's probably not going to happen. Kanan was my favorite character in Rebels, so it was bittersweet to see him go the way he did, but at least he went heroically and like a Jedi. So, but yeah, that's kind of what my overall hope is that everybody we finally get to see everybody in Rebels in live action together again, like we did, and from like the last time we saw them at the end of the Rebels and their final season.
Yeah, I think a reunion is something that a lot of folks are clamoring for. I know we've seen images of Zeb doing stuff for Mando and Grogu, so might be possible to leave him in character, leave him in costume, and go from there. But we'll have to wait and see. Shawn, what would be your speculative hope for season 2 of Ahsoka?
Well, I'll touch on the last point you brought up. For me, if they, and this is going past just season 2, really, is if it's just cut and dry, Thrawn is the big bad, and there's nothing more layered, even though they started to set up something with that, and there's no more nuance to the character, that would not be doing Timothy Zahn justice, whether it's in
Mm-hmm.
canon and or legends. He
Mm-hmm.
cannot just be, oh, I'm the big bad Imperial looking for revenge for the Emperor. That's not the character. It was not the character in legends. It's not the character in canon. So my big thing is setting up another threat, whether that's Abeloth, whether that's the Grisk, both. You need to set up the other threat, because if you're just making Thrawn the big bad, you are essentially killing all the material that Timothy Zahn has done in current canon, which, in my opinion, are some of the best books in current canon.
So I'll close out this thought with some, I wouldn't call it behind the scenes, but I had the pleasure of speaking to Mr. Zahn at Comic-Con about 2 months ago, and got his autograph on my favorite novel of his, which is Outbound Flight. It's a little underrated, but it was a personal favorite of mine when I was growing up. Loved the twists and turns and the character developments that took place in that story. And I asked him, you know, what is next for you? What are you most excited about for moving forward? And he basically, in a roundabout way, said that he's got a whole trilogy of books in mind for how Thrawn addresses the Grisks, but he isn't able to move forward with it yet because Filoni and company haven't decided if or how they're going to address it in this show. So I do think that there's a very good chance we could hear them mentioned or they could get addressed. I don't know yet if they will show up, but he's basically in a holding pattern as far as book writing goes and will remain so until the storylines in Ahsoka have reached a satisfactory point where Filoni and company can give him ideas on what to incorporate into his future stories. So I think he's definitely got a lot more Thrawn left in him. He's just waiting, like the rest of us are, to figure out what's going to happen in Ahsoka, and then he'll build his stories around that.
That's pretty exciting to hear, to be perfectly honest. That's actually more information than probably most people get in general. But the idea that he's waiting on Filoni to give him the okay to go with whatever he's got planned, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. I was surprised at how like how much he confided in just a casual fan that got his autograph. But he said basically, I'd love to do more with the Grisks. I just can't yet. And he does everything basically aside from Outbound Flight. He's done everything in trilogies. So it would be my educated guess that he's at least got one book, most likely a trilogy in mind for what he would like to do with the Grisks, but he just hasn't been able to move forward with it yet. So that's my speculation, my educated guess, my hope for season 2 would be that we see a collaboration between Balin and Shin and some of our protagonists. I think just because he's left the order doesn't mean that they just have to be sworn mortal enemies. And so I would hope that perhaps there's a situation where they, like, both sides of the coin realize they're in over their head, whether that's Thrawn, whether that's Abeloth, whether that's the Grisks. I think there should be a point in this second season where they realize they are better together. They are stronger together. Enemy of my enemy is my friend type of thing. I think it would be cool to see Balin and Shin um, acting on some of their Jedi principles with other people that resemble Jedi and the light, and see what that does for their characters and what their perspectives and insights might do for our protagonists if they get to have actual conversation rather than just having verbal jabs that take place in between combat. So I think the door opening for more dialogue and having that mutual understanding might lead to some really cool moments and really cool conversations. So that would be my hope. Let's touch now on Andor for just a couple of moments. The show is already collected 4 Emmy Awards in this season 2. Um, one of them has been for best editing. The other one has been for best visual effects. The other one for best costume design, and the other one for best production design. Now they all have certain subcategories, and I think one of them is like for a science fiction or fantasy show, or like for a drama or something to that effect. But this show is incredibly edited. It does have incredible visuals. The costumes are fantastic, and the production design is top notch, especially in certain poignant moments in the second half of the season. Um, Randy, what's your take on these 4 Emmys? Are there more in the works? Which one of these 4 that they've collected so far has been most impressive to you? Just what are your thoughts?
Well, I think we all knew just from watching season 2 that it was going to win something, right? It was too good to not win anything. So the fact that it's got 4 right off the bat for stuff that I think if you really think about it, we all had a feeling that those were easily in the bag for Andor. Obviously, I would love for it to win more, whether it's could be sound design or uh, I mean we know it's going to get the effects. We know it's going to get music. It could, but I'm thinking about the actors who deserve Emmys that really put their heart and soul into the show, and it was so well written, so well directed, and just the story was so compelling that I find it hard to believe that it's only going to win technical stuff. I think we need to look past that and just understand that this show deserves more than just the technical stuff. But granted, that's always been Star Wars thing, whether it be
Mhm.
Oscars or Emmys, it's always the technical stuff that it wins for.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I'm just kind of hoping that we finally get past that, and that people are recognized for more than just creating the world, but more or less bringing it to life and breathing air into it that just your average actor could not do.
Yeah, I recently saw a film that was very, very good. It was very well written and it had a lot of inspiring elements, but there were certain moments where I was like, God, I wish we had this person to help bring it to life even more. I wish we had, this composer that could give life to this moment or something. So it really is a collective collaboration. And you're right, starting it off this way is really, really solid. And it's getting love that it is due for, but it would be cool to see what else it could get. Shawn, what are your thoughts on these particular wins, and what else do you think it could win as we continue deeper into Emmy season?
I mean, personally, I thought a bunch of the cast got robbed, not even getting nominated. And I know Tony Gilroy spoke a little bit about that, just saying, look, you can't watch just a few episodes of the show. It's meant to be seen as a whole to understand the full character journey. And, um, it's unfortunate that a lot of them didn't even get nominated, but I'm not surprised with any of those categories. Like the production design, yeah, I'll just say it's the best we've ever seen in Star Wars by some margin. I said it in season 1, and it was more true in season 2. Andor is the Game of Thrones of Star Wars, and I think it's got a shot at winning Best Drama Series, but it's got some competition.
Yeah, it definitely does. But I think that's just a testament to the quality of TV that we're exposed to. But I don't think that's conversation for the here and the now. Randy, man, I had a thought and then I lost it. Give us a couple of your thoughts on season 2 as we kind of close out the Star Wars centric discussion. What about season 2 did you enjoy the most, and do you hope to get like some more recognition for that particular element that you enjoyed?
So season 2 as a whole was just that roller coaster ride of emotions. Like there were just, there were highs and lows, but the thing is because it was done so well, you felt the highs and the lows. Like there were just certain elements to the story as a whole that really um hits hard. I mean, you can go to the Gorman Massacre with episode 8, that whole arc, the highs and lows of watching the Gorman Massacre and seeing Mon Mothma having to escape Coruscant and just all of that. That the Gorman Massacre still sticks with me. It was extremely visceral. It's really hard to watch. It was
Mhm.
really, it was just one of those, like, I was speechless at the end of the episode and near tears because just to experience it and the way it was written and the music and the acting, it just so well done to the point of where I couldn't believe it. I was just stunned. But the thing is, but that's what good storytelling is.
Mhm.
It gets you to feel, it gets you to experience something that you never thought you could experience, and here it is. And just like I said, that particular arc in general that they decided to choose for for the series, that was by far some of the best Star Wars I've seen in a long time.
It was pretty fantastic. And you were talking about experience as we finish up this Star Wars portion of the conversation, which has been really fun and really lively, probably a bit longer than what we were originally expecting. But the word experience, how can the folks on the channel experience more content with you? What other stuff have you got coming down the road?
Well, you can find me over on X at Giggity Giles. Obviously, every Tuesday with the Mask of Fear. And with the NFL season in full swing now, my friends and I are going to be starting up doing episodes of the Sports Brew podcast again. We drink, we BS, we make fun of each other, and we talk sports mixed in with a little bit of pop culture. It's a lot of fun. So if you ever want to check it out, you can just Google Sports and Brew, and you should find us no problem.
That sounds awesome. That sounds right up my alley. I might have to check that out myself. Well, Randy, looking forward to getting to do that Ahsoka rewatch down the road. Looking forward to the Tuesday live Mask of Fear tomorrow. But for now, thanks for taking time out of your Monday to hang out with us for a little while.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite. It's never a bad time to talk about Star Wars.
That is very true. Randy Giles, everybody, as we wrap up our conversation talking about Ahsoka season 2 and season 2 of Andor and the Emmys it collects. Shawn, time to talk about a book that has been very widely discussed in the Halloween community, but truth be known, it's not exactly the part of sci-fi and fantasy that I am as well versed in. So I'm going to cede this time over to you, sir.
First and foremost, I just want to say thank you to our channel sponsors, Ryan over at Kaulignation. We also got Jesse at Jesse's Storytime Spectacular and our friend Jason Nike at Backtrack Cinema for allowing us to come out and do this on the Mask of Fear. And more specifically, our show sponsor, Dustin Pritchard, who is also a mod here in the chat. Without him, the show, frankly, would not even be possible. And so we greatly appreciate his and their efforts on everything that we do here. And if you want more bonus content, patreon.com/The Mask of Fear. We are watching episode 5 of Ahsoka tomorrow night. Sorry, not tomorrow night. Getting losing my days. Wednesday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. That is the big, very Anakin-centric episode. So feel free to catch us over there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Um, taking shape. So there's two of these things. And the second one is the size of a very big phone book. And if you wanted to kill someone with it, you probably could. Um, so, in my opinion, Taking Shape 2 is the best piece of Halloween literature ever written by friend of the channel Dustin McNeil and Travis Mullins. They killed it with this book. This was several years in the making. This was acquiring old Halloween scripts and story treatments that had gone into pre-production over the years, and even in some cases production that didn't get made. And there's so many of them dating all the way back to the early 1980s, all the way through, I think the latest ones that are on here are like 2015, 2016. So, you get a look at movies that almost happened, that were actively in development, that were greenlit, that just fell apart. And it's not like it's just this franchise that happens with. This happens with every franchise you have ever seen, and some at a far greater capacity than the others. Think about it this way. On last week's show, we talked about Jon Snow, or
Mm-hmm.
the Snow Show, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me who wouldn't pay a bunch of money to be able to read the story treatments for that show and or the scripts and give their thoughts on it. Game of Thrones, in fact, is a franchise that could do a book like this already, just between the show Blood Moon, Snow, one of the animated cancellations that's happened. Um, there's or the seasons of Game of Thrones that were supposed to be made that didn't get made because they wrapped up early. Like, ton of material. Star Wars, in fact, like one of
Oh yeah.
the biggest leaked scripts that's out there for them is the Colin Trevorrow Duel of Fate script in comparison to the Rise of Skywalker.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two wildly different movies.
Oh yeah.
And I would love to see someone put the work into doing this. And you don't need permission from Disney and or Lucasfilm to do books like this. Now you can't just have the script in the books, but you can have thoughts on the scripts. You can put out there what it was about, much like they do in this book. You might ruffle some feathers, but there are ways to do it for sure. Star Wars is a big one I'd like to see. Game of Thrones is another one. If you're a Halloween fan and you haven't given this book a chance by now, it's absolutely worth looking at. Hell, I'd say even if you're not the biggest Halloween fan, you could go onto Audible, purchase an Audible credit, and get it on there, and just pick a couple of the unmade movies that are on there, and just get an idea on how a franchise works while they're going through the creative process from the beginning of an idea to right up to a week before cameras are rolling. It's an absolutely wonderful educational book, not just about the Halloween movies, but rather a filmmaking process. And I hope more franchises get books like this.
Now, this one in particular, you said was about the size of a phone book. Roughly, how many pages are we talking here?
My copy's in the bedroom. I won't lie, I haven't cracked open my copy of the physical version in a very long time. I've read it cover to back, but the last couple of times that I've gone into this, I have done it on Audible, and I'm just pulling it up here on Audible. You could probably Google it too, but on Audible, I can't even click on this, or else it's gonna take me out of here. But it's big. I want to say, yeah, I am. Zach might already have it though. Don't bother. It's about 600 pages long.
Yeah, that's what I just found on Goodreads. It's about 600 pages. That's insane.
Yeah. It's truly a wonderful read, and I feel bad for any Halloween fan that's never given it a shot, because there's so much rich material in there. And the authors are super, super approachable. Terry Willis, 1,200 or 12,464 pages in my Kindle edition.
Good Lord. Good Lord.
But yeah, I fell in love with it. I know they have talked about doing a third one. Their first book walks you through the production of all the movies that were actually made up until Halloween 2018. And then there's talks of doing a third book that would be sort of like a combination of the first two books. There's more sequels that weren't in those books or in the second book that they didn't cover, and obviously they haven't covered Halloween Kills and or Halloween Ends. Hell, they could probably do a whole book on the fucking TV series at this rate. So, but
Probably.
I'd love to see a project like this for Star Wars, and I can think of a couple of content creators over the years that have had the scoops that if they wanted to go do a project like this, they could. But like, it's years, right? You're not signing yourself up for months of work. You're signing yourself up for years of work. Yeah,
Tons
and
of
like
tons of late nights, tons of research, tons of
and interviews too, right? Like they're getting a hold of people that actually every single one of these projects they interview someone that was involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you kind of have to, and that's the, like you said, that's the way you do the roundabout. Is you don't ask Lucasfilm and Disney directly, you don't ask Marvel Studios directly, but you find somebody that was working on the set. You find somebody that was one of the writers or writers' assistants. You know, you find workarounds in order to get personal POV of stuff like that, and it sounds like that's exactly what Taking Shape 2 does. So you said it's available on Audible. I'm sure it's available in other platforms as well. But if you're a Halloween fan, definitely something worth checking out if you want the scoop on what could have been, I suppose. All right, we're on to our Gauntlet of Thrones. This one, I'll admit, to me, is probably not as controversial as what our next matchup is going to be. While this one does have some interesting components and the fact that it's, you know, something from the very middle of the show versus something very early in the sequel show. Personally, in this edition of Gauntlet of Thrones, Shawn, I feel like Game of Thrones gets the edge just because, in my opinion, the first, the middle, not the first episode, the pilot is actually pretty strong, but episodes 2, 3, and 4, I feel like the show is still trying to find its footing and still has a little bit of an identity crisis. And so I think it's tough to debate something that is, you know, 3+ seasons into the fourth season, very established. You understand what its story is, what it's about, as opposed to, you know, the early part of the first season of a show that's still finding its footing.
I mean, it's a good matchup, and unfortunately for House of the Dragon season 1, episode 3, second of his name, it's a bad draw for it because I do think it's a better episode than several episodes in Game of Thrones and even in House of the Dragon. The episode as a whole, it's not lackluster. It's a good episode, and if you're a Viserys fan from that series, you know you really get an idea of how weak and frail he's slowly becoming here over the years. But you also get that epic sequence with Daemon at the end, which
At the very end, yeah.
you know, spoilers is okay, Dustin. It'd be one thing if we were talking like House of the Dragon season 3, but feel free to have at it. But yeah, that sequence at the end with Daemon on the shore, where he's fucking tearing through people like he's Anakin Skywalker,
Yeah,
is so incredibly well done, and I loved it. And I hated seeing this matchup come up just because the first thing I thought about was that end sequence with Daemon. I'm a huge Daemon guy. Matt Smith is such a wonderful actor. Can't wait to see him in Star Wars.
Mhm.
But then like, how in the world can it live up to having to suffer through 4 or 3+ seasons of that little see you next Tuesday Joffrey in Game
Mhm.
of Thrones, finally get his just desserts, if you will.
Yep.
And like, as much as I love House of the Dragon and I love that end sequence, you go with Game of Thrones season 4, episode 2, The Lion and the Rose. That punk ass bitch finally gets what he deserves.
Yep. And I mean, there's so much more to that episode as well. I mean, Bran is having visions beyond the wall. Melisandre is having men burned at the stake up at Dragonstone. You've got Ramsay.
In the name of the one true King Stannis.
Ramsay and Reek are having certain moments themselves. But then you also have the big wedding. Joffrey and Marjorie are married at the Sept of Baelor, and Cersei accuses Brienne of being in love with Jaime, and Oberyn and Ilaria are trading insults with Cersei and Tywin. So there's verbal jabs that go on. There's physical assault that takes place. There's a lot that happens in that episode. And like you said, Joffrey finally getting what's coming to him. When that episode ended, I had a hard time believing that was what was really happening. I thought it was going to be one of those fake cliffhangers where, you come back in the next episode and they're able to save him and, some magical potion is able to revive him. And I'm like, oh my God, that's not what happened. It was pretty fantastic. And so, yeah, while the final couple of moments at the end of Second of His Name is pretty good, I think the comprehensive episode of The Lion and the Rose and all that it entails and all of the impact that it has and the repercussions that it has for the entire show. I think the gravity of that episode is just heavier than one fight sequence at the end of another episode.
Yeah, just it holds so much weight, right? Like, and I won't lie, like neither one of these episodes would make I don't think they'd make my top 25 Westeros episodes. But it's the weight of what happens with Joffrey.
Yeah.
And and some of the play that goes on there's a whole battle of just staring that happens in that episode between Jaime and Cersei and oh my God, Brienne. Like that's a battle in its own right that's going on, let alone what's going on with Tyrion and Sansa.
Yep. There's a lot that's happening. There's a lot that's going on, and the outcome leads to so many other things in ensuing episodes. Like, honestly, I was genuinely surprised that something this plot heavy was happening in the second episode of the season. Generally, big moments like this is stuff that happens in like episodes 8, 9, and 10. And so for it to happen in episode 2, I was like, holy crap, what are we in for the rest of this season? And so it did kind of set a pretty high bar as far as A, the notion that nobody is really safe, and B, the notion that these types of moments can happen anywhere in the show, not just in like the penultimate episodes. So
yeah, I didn't think we were gonna have much of a debate on this one.
No, the next one's going to be a bigger debate, so y'all be on the lookout for that one. But I think for this live stream, for this particular episode, The Lion and the Rose is going to win out. So we're still working on the process of, how can we redeem episodes and have, fan votes that bring something back and plug it back into the rotation and maybe have it go up against something else. Because I think you're right. I think there are episodes of Game of Thrones that Second of His Name might be able to edge out, but this episode was not one of them.
I agree.
Okay. Moving on to our last segment then, and I busted the shirt out just for this. You remember this logo, folks? I know Shawn does. It's time for Flix Busters, the segment where we take a look at a flick and determine whether it truly is a flick or if it's a bust. And tonight we're discussing the summer slate still. because we were a little late getting this podcast started, so we're kind of retroactively going back and reviewing some of the stuff from over the summer. We did Jurassic World Rebirth. We may do some other films from the summer as well, but tonight, the one we're looking at is Uploading Untitled Design. Oh, there it is. Okay. We're looking at the July film that has led to many different types of reviews, and it'll be interesting to see just how we handled this one. The 2025 Superman film with James Gunn kicking off the new DCU. Um, it had a lot of potential. It had a lot of things that seemed like could be going for it. And Shawn, am I incorrect in my belief that maybe we saw the potential, but then also did not see it executed the way we hoped?
Yeah, I think that's valid. Like, look, I'm gonna reveal my hand here. Those in the chat that don't already know, I know our mod knows where I'm going with this. Um, I wanted to like this, like I did,
Mm-hmm.
but the more that came out about this movie, despite James Gunn saying otherwise, the more it felt like Guardians of the Galaxy with a Superman skin on it.
Yeah.
And he swore up and down it wasn't that, and
It's not Superman Guardians.
and I swear up and down it is that. So, and that's not to knock Guardians. I love Guardians,
Mm-hmm.
and there are elements of this movie that are good. You know, we don't have a ton of time here left in the show, but like, is it Rachel Brosnan that plays Lois Lane? Is that the actress's name?
Yep.
She's fantastic. She is fantastic in that movie. What's his face is Lex. Why can't I remember? Nicholas Holt.
Yep.
He's very, very good. I even think David Cornsweet is decent as Superman. But I also grew up a Smallville fan, and like I'm pro Smallville over pro Superman because you get way more time with the characters. 10 seasons worth, right? And not all Smallville episodes are good because there's 200 plus of them. But when you get time to develop characters, it just means something a little bit more. And there's some nods to Smallville in this movie, some very clear nods. James Gunn's a Smallville fan, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough to win me over personally.
So I think I'm in a similar boat as you, although I think just based on what you were showing me in the green room before the show, I feel like maybe I enjoyed it a little more than you, but that's not saying all that much. Um, so my criteria are a little bit different from yours, but we still end up giving it a possible 100 total points. We give 25 points for one area, 25 points for another, 25 points for a third. And then there's a fourth category that we both agree on. That's just the enjoyment factor. Because I always give this stipulation. It could be a movie that's really, really terrible, like Zombievers. And if it doesn't have good acting, if it doesn't have good production value, if it doesn't have, a good film score, but you still enjoyed the hell out of it, you can still give it, 25 points to kind of boost it a little bit because you just enjoyed the hell out of it. So for me, I gave it
Before you get started here, I just want to preface this by saying when the scores come up on screen, because both of our scores will show at the same time, mine were much lower my first time around doing this graphic. And I had to sit there and go, I need to take a second, try to remember this film, remove my bias and my disdain for the film because I really did not like it, and try to look at it just as if I was a critic watching a movie. And
Yeah.
while the scores are going to seem low, believe me when I say they were lower.
They could have
That's all
been.
I'm saying.
It could have been worse. So I thought that dropping into the middle of the story was something that was a different approach, but it could have been executed better. I gave it a 17. You gave that a 7. For the quality, I think we were both kind of in a similar vein as far as the quality. Like it was decently made. It looked nice, but the execution wasn't completely there. I didn't find very many of the characters endearing or relatable. The pacing was a little weird, and I think this is something that you and I have talked about previously on the show, that there may have been things that were good in the development stage, in the storyboarding phase, but when you put it to film, when you put it on screen, it didn't look the way that it needed to. Sound is like the design, the soundtrack, the film score. Looks like we both gave it the same number there. It was okay. It wasn't anything to write home about. It wasn't anything amazing. And then my enjoyment factor, I wanted to give it a 12.5, but I decided to give it a 13, just go slightly higher, but it was right down the middle. It was a meh, right down the middle of the road for me. Can you tell me a little bit about the 7 that you gave for creativity and the 5 that you gave for enjoyment? Because I think the 2 middle ones were kind of on the same page on.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just tipped my hat on the creativity thing. I don't think there's very much creative in this at all. There's some interesting choices narratively that are different from what we know of Superman. But at the end of the day, I felt like, okay, he sat down and said, I'm going to use the DNA of Guardians of the Galaxy and how I made that film and how he made his. I know I'm going to butcher the title on this. He either did Justice League or the Justice League. I can't remember which is which. But very much in the vein of Guardians of the Galaxy. And it was the same thing again. And that might have been okay if he didn't spend half a fucking year telling us it wasn't going to be that. And that's where I don't forgive writers, directors, and/or studios for lying to their audience, i.e., Halloween Ends. Anyone who's watched this channel back in 2022, and for me, it's lucky it got 7 because as of this morning, it was lower than that.
And I guess that played into getting a 5 out of a possible 25 for the enjoyment, because you didn't enjoy being lied to.
Yeah, that was a 3 to begin with, and frankly, quality and sound were both double digits still, but they were both down. And I had to be honest with myself and think back to the movie. It's like, no, those aren't fair scores. I need to bump them up a bit, and so the scores could have been significantly less, but this one was one for me that I didn't appreciate. I also don't appreciate the way that James Gunn himself is handling being the head of DC Studios. I don't think he's fit for that job, and I'm honestly I'm out already on the DCU. That doesn't mean I won't see the next movie if my kids want to see it. I'll see it, but zero enjoyment factor for me.
So I will say, Superman ended up being my lowest rated film of the year. Lowest rated film I've seen in 2025. I gave a 75 out of 100 to Jurassic World Rebirth, and then, spoiler alert, I actually gave a score in the 90s for 28 years later, and I gave scores in the very high 80s for both Freakier Friday and Primitive War. So if you want to hear some more depth on that, that may be in a future upcoming episode. But this one, Superman, got a 61 out of 100. And because of Shawn's 7 and 5, that number collectively is going to dip between the two of us. If I was the one reviewing the movie based on our Flix Busters criteria, a 61 is technically just above the 60 cutoff threshold that we have for determining whether a movie is a flick or a bust. But because we're combining the two scores, it comes out to 51, which actually dips it below our threshold. So, based on the two of us and how we perceive the movie, doesn't matter what the Rotten Tomatoes score is, the Bannerman Banter score for this is a paltry 51%, which, because it's below 60, makes this flick a bust.
Yeah, I got to see when did the calculation for the score, man, and I'd seen it was 51%. I wanted to go back and readjust my scores again to get it under 50%. And I'm like, I can't do that. That would be ruining what we're doing here. And I considering how terrible I felt about this movie, the fact that it ends up 51%, yes, a bust in terms of it being a flick or a bust. I think it ended up better than probably what it deserves, frankly, but that's just me. Here's a question to everybody in the comment section, though. What percentage would you give it out of 100? Be honest with yourself and the audience, whether you're watching live or after the fact. Put a percentage to this movie out of 100. What would you give it? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section.
Yeah, pop that thing back up one more time where it's broken down segment by segment so that the folks at home can use the exact same criterion that we did. A possible 25 points for creativity, a possible 25 points for quality, a possible 25 points for sound and music, and then 25 possible points for the enjoyment factor. Add those four numbers up, and it gives you a much better idea of how you feel about something out of 100. I was not expecting my number to be 61 out of 100. And then when I add all those numbers up, I was like, this is how I truly felt about the movie. So this is my aggregated score. And it gives me just a much deeper sense of how I really feel about a film. I had really, really high things to say about Freakier Friday on my personal Facebook page. And then I started giving it actual grades, and I thought, oh, for sure, this is going to be in the 90s. And then it turns out it was actually in the 80s. And so it really kind of helps manage how you feel about something when you're able to give it specific criteria and break it down. So you're not just like, oh, it's a 90 out of 100. Oh, it's a 95 out of 100. Like, show me how you got there. And this shows you the kind of thoughts and analysis that we gave that helped us arrive at the score that we did. So please join us and help us see why maybe it should be higher than 51% or why it's not. But because we only give 25 possible points to the enjoyment factor, Dustin says, I enjoyed it, but maybe that's because my bar is so damn low for anything DC related minus the Batman. That's very fair. But the enjoyment factor is only 1/4 of the criteria for us. So what is your enjoyment factor? And then what are your factors for those other three categories? Let us know in the comments. Let us know on the social medias. And we'll have another Flix Busters review for you on the next live stream. That discussion is still TBD, though. I don't think we've discussed exactly what it is yet.
Well, we know. So, for reasons I will get into, we're not going to record a second episode tonight, but we will be live in 2 weeks' time where Zach is going to give a review on Primitive War. So if you've not seen that new Dino movie yet, you got 2 weeks to see it. Check it out and join us for that review. But that will not represent the Flix Busters review for that episode, since we both will have had to see it, and I don't think I'll have time between now and then.
Well, and you'd have to try to find it also because it's not releasing on digital until next month.
Yeah, definitely won't get to see it then.
Yeah.
But we will have a different movie we review for that day. I will say to Dustin, though, if I was to compare James Gunn's Superman to Matt Reeves' the Batman would be like, a beautifully well done steak dinner topped with sauteed mushrooms and onions and peppers and garlic mashed potatoes and corn on the cob and peas and carrots with just the right au jus sauce. And Superman would be like having mustard on a donut.
Man, get the fuck out of here with that. Get the fuck out of here. Fuck that.
R.I.P. to my late uncle, who in fact would have mustard on a donut. But that is not what killed him.
I put mustard on my peanut butter and jelly, so I can't really talk about it either.
I have no words for you.
You have nothing to say. Yeah, that's what I thought. Oh, man, with that topic on mustard being the final thing we talk about of all things, that's crazy. Folks, be sure to go and find us wherever you can catch us on social media. All the links should be available in the description. We're on Twitter. We've got a Facebook group. We've got some personal pages that you can follow as well. Shawn's got a bunch of live content that goes on throughout the week. He mentioned stuff that's going to be available exclusively on the Patreon as well. I do some high school sports broadcasting that goes on during the weekends. So if you're ever bored and intoxicated on a Friday night and have nothing better to do, like certain other people I've spoken to, then yeah, go find my YouTube page and watch me announce a high school football game, maybe. But Shawn, unless you got anything else, man, I think that's it for our live stream tonight.
The visuals were great, and obviously the audio was great between you and your pops. But yes, I was a little buzzed. I might have been that individual he was referring to. I think the people who I played Gears of War with later that night didn't appreciate how buzzed I was and ineffective I was for our team. But no, you guys put on a great show. I was genuinely surprised at the quality, and it was fun for the 25 minutes I tuned in for. We have the Mask of Fear live tomorrow night, and if you want to know what we're talking about, tune in tomorrow night, because as of right now, I've had absolutely not even 30 seconds to prepare for that show. I will get some time tomorrow, thankfully, and we'll see what's going on in the world of news, or we might just pick a fun couple of discussion topics. There's some Halloween stuff that we're sitting on, like a oh my god, what do you call them now? An unboxing that we can't reveal quite yet, and some stuff pertaining to the game and footage that's coming out in October, and hopefully, fingers crossed, the TV series. But the best place to get content from us when not here is the bonus content available over on patreon.com/The Mask of Fear Ahsoka. Season 1, Episode 5 watch party, Wednesday night, 10:30 p.m. Eastern.
And so much more just in general happening on this channel as well. So be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you get alerts for when all of that's going to be taking place. Those are our scores for whether that movie is a flick or a bust, and some great talk about Halloween and Andor and Ahsoka. We had our first guest on Bannerman Banter, so it's not just the two of us anymore. But I do think that is all that we wrote for episode 3 of Bannerman Banter. So we're going to go ahead and shut up before we talk about mustard any more than we should already. For Shawn, I'm Zach, thanking you for tuning in, and we'll see you all again next time.